We remember Foster Home for Imaginary Friends as colorful, chaotic masterpiece, but if you strip away the bright colors and the slapstick, you're left with one of the most uncomfortable premises in animation history. A giant Victorian mansion designed specifically to manage the psychological aftermath of abandonment. On surface, Foster is a safe haven. It's a place where imaginary friends go when they have nowhere else to live. But the deeper truth is that the house only exists because childhood has an expiration date. Foster isn't just a home. This is the administrative solution to outgrowing love. It's a place where things we once needed most go to become obsolete. Now we look at season 1, episode House of Blue. Mac and Blue enters Foster's for the first time, and they're introduced to a house full of abandoned imaginary friends waiting to be adopted, making the place feel less like a home and more like a system for reassigning childhood attachments.
Mac, Blue, Foster's is a foster home. It's not a boarding house. If you leave Blue here, you can't come see him, because he won't be yours anymore. What? He'll be put up for adoption like everybody else here.
Adoption?
Blue doesn't end up here because of a tragedy. He ends up here because of a procedure. This is what makes the show hit differently as an adult. No one treats it like a crisis. The world of Foster has built an entire social infrastructure around the fact that children will eventually leave their best friends behind. Foster isn't chaotic in the way of a fantasy world is. It's organized. There's intake forms, house rules, strict adoption schedules. This is institutionalized abandonment. The very existence of Madame Foster's mansion proves that being left behind isn't a rare occurrence, it is a universal certainty. Now we look at season 2, episode The Sweet Stench of Success. Blue becomes a corporate mascot surrounded by cameras, handlers.
Consigas un tío.
Es hora de asante de la marca de fábrica de Dio. ¡Viva para el Dio!
This is a psychological way of the house. It absorbs the loss that kids are too young to process. Every friend in those hallways carries the same quiet trauma. There are versions 1.0 of someone who eventually found a version 2.0 in the real world. They aren't just characters, they are psychological life support that was unplugged. Mac is the key to seeing the tragedy clearly. Unlike every other kid, he refuses to follow procedure. He returns. He chooses Blue every single day. Season 1, episode Store Wars. Mr. Hairman forces the house like a system, not a home, where the routine comes first and everyone else has to bend around it.
Streamers! It looks fine without streamers. Streamers aren't that great.
Miss Francis, how dare you? Streamers are that great, thank you very much. Why, never in all my years have I attended a celebration without streamers. It's simply uncivilized. Now go get them immediately.
This highlights the cold mechanical reality of keeping hundreds of abandoned beings in one place. But Mac Present only highlights what the rest of the house is, a collection of friends who weren't chosen again. They are existent in the state of permanent waiting. They aren't just there just to have fun. They are there because they were once useful, once loved, and eventually surplus. Foster isn't just a cartoon setting, it's a metaphor for the versions of ourselves we leave behind to become adults. It's a warehouse for the ghosts of our own growth. But if the house is a system, we have to look at the result of that system, because in part 2 we need to talk about Blue and why his selfishness isn't just a personality trait, it's a survival mechanism for someone who knows exactly how easy it is to be replaced. At first glance, Blue is just the classic chaotic sidekick. He's loud, manipulative, and relentlessly selfish. But when you rewatch the show as an adult, Blue starts being a comedian and starts looking like a survivor. He isn't just childish, he's a character who knows he was born to be needed, and he's terrified of what happens when that need runs out. In the world of Foster, imagine a friend's entire existence is tied to their utility. They are created to fill a void, to be the psychological life support a child needs to get through a specific moment in time. Blue understands this better than anyone. He doesn't act out because he's a jerk. He acts out because of the noise in his heartbeat. As long as he is the loudest person in the room, he's impossible to forget. Episode Mac Daddy. Blue sees Mac bringing home cheese and immediately reads him as a threat, not just a new friend. The reaction isn't simply jealousy, it's panic that he's no longer enough on his own.
Thought of another imaginary friend.
Another imaginary friend?
Yeah?
But I don't understand. You've got me. Well, why did you imagine someone else?
I didn't mean to imagine some.
Bloo behaves like someone who knows he can be deleted. In a normal cartoon, the sidekick is saved because of the script, but the logic of foster abandonment is the industrial standard. Every friend in that house is a living reminder that best friend is a temporary title. This is why Bloo claims, why he manipulates, and why he turns every minor event into a catastrophe. He isn't seeking attention. He's fighting for his right to occupy space. When a child need for an imaginary friend disappears, the friend doesn't just lose a home, they lose the very purpose that made them real. And that is the brutal existence weight of for a character who literally is built to be immature. Bloo doesn't have the emotional tools to handle being second place, so he doubles down on his own importance. We look at episode Bloo the Boss. After seeing Madam Foster celebrate like a hero, Bloo immediately tries to create his own version of Foster's, just so the attention can circle back to him.
You'll see. My home will be more successful than Foster's ever was. I'll show you all. You'll see. Now, good day, sirs.
Well,
He forces himself into the center of every room because the alternative is admitting that the world has already started to move on without him. This is the panic disguised as comedy. His selfishness is a survival mechanism. If he can dominate the house, if he can steer their attention, if he can remain the boss, and then maybe he can outrun the reality that he is part of an obsolete system. Season 3, episode The Big Lebowski. How everyone else treats the bowling match like a real mission, Bloo stays fixated on whatever benefits him in the moment.
Be able to bring this cow back in from the pasture.
Yeah, you got a quarter?
Gorgeous galore, my boy. Just remember, when I call your name, you'll work your magic.
Anything you say, lady. Anything you say.
This is the real fear hiding under his behavior, not being unloved, but being outgrown. It's quiet, socially accessible tragedy. Nobody in this show was rejected with cruelty. They were simply left behind once the real world became way more interesting. Bloo is the character least equipped to survive that reality, so he chooses to be a monster instead of a memory. Mac is the only thing keeping Bloo fair from becoming a reality. He is the only person still interrupting the mechanical logic of the house by choosing to stay, but Mac is only one kid, because in part 3 we have to talk about the rest of the house. We need to look at Will, Adalto, and Coco, and why their kindness is just as much as a trauma response as Bloo's selfishness. The brilliance of the setting is that it isn't a temporary shelter, it's a permanent solution. The world of the show didn't just build a house, it built a bureaucracy of forgotten love. Abandonment isn't treated as a tragedy here, it's treated as something common enough to organize, schedule, and automate. Now we look at season 1, episode Durner is swerved. The friends are forced into a rigid, almost military-style Durner routine, managed by Mr. Harriman.
please, everyone should be eating.
No, there shall be no food consumption until Master Beauregard arrives.
I didn't spend the afternoon slaving over a hot stove to have all my dishes just sit there on the table and get cold. Now everyone, eat!
Stop!
Eat!
Stop!
Eat!
You see, they know that the
This is where the comedy starts to feel like a coping mechanism. We see the characters as wacky, but their personalities are actually unfinished emotional jobs. Each friend was designed to fulfill a specific role: protection, confidence, rebellion, or comfort. But once the kid grows up and finds those traits within themselves, the friend is left carrying a function that no longer has an owner. Look at Will. We see him as the nice one, but his selfishness is almost pathological. He doesn't just help, he performs utility. In the episode Good Will Hunting, it's not just politeness, it's the behavior of someone who learned long ago that being useful is the only way to ensure you aren't discarded again.
Like you. Can she lend me some cash?
Maybe he isn't here yet. Is your creator here yet, Wilt?
Nope, not here. Sorry, is that okay? Sorry, okay. I'm sorry, but is this your umbrella? Excuse me, are you missing an umbrella?
Say that, Sonny. You look like one of them professional athletes.
Will is the personification of mandatory relevance. He's a character built around fear of being too much trouble to keep. His kindness isn't just a trait, it's a survival script. He is a support class character in a world where the main player has already logged off. And then you have Edado. He's a massive, terrifying design for pure defense, yet he is paralyzed by fear. Season 1, episode Worldwide Wabbit. Edado massive muscular frame is contrasted with high-pitched voice and a genuine terror over something small. It shows the discomfort between what he was built to be, a protector, and what the reality of his current purpose of life.
What is that? Get away, get away! It's still my soul!
I just want...
Eduardo is a obsolete shield. He was likely created to protect a scared child, but now the child is gone. He is left with all the strength and none of the mission. This is the quiet tension of Foster. These characters have to keep existing even after the relationship that gave them the meaning has expired. Foster isn't a fantasy, it's a warehouse for the version of ourselves we outgrew. It's where our childhood coping mechanism goes to live out the rest of their days in a community of the forgotten. But there is a darker warning hidden in the walls of this mansion, because in part 4 we have to talk about what happens to a society that gets too comfortable with leaving its imagination in a box. By the end of every episode, the chaos settles and the house returns to routine. But as an adult, you realize that normal is just organized sadness. The series never treats this premise like a tragedy. It treats it as a practical necessity. Foster isn't trying to preserve the magic of childhood, it's trying to manage the debris it leaves behind. It just shows that quality asks a brutal question. What happens to the part of you that you don't need anymore? See, these characters aren't just friends, they are functional ghosts. Every being in that mansion is a manifestation of a specific temporary crisis, a shield for a child's fear, a mirror for loneliness, or a spark for their confidence. But once that child grows up, they don't just leave a friend behind. They leave a part of their own psychological scaffolding. We call it a sanctuary because that's more comfortable than calling it a warehouse for the unwanted. The house functions because the abandonment is the industrial standard of its universe. It's a museum of the people who we used to be, managed by a bureaucracy that ensures we never have to look back. The debt we owe to our playthings of our childhood is that they were the first things we learned how to leave behind.